Kanye's debut album was about proving himself as a rapper. He had already established himself as a producer, but he wanted to be his own artist. The College Dropout accomplished exactly that, eventually selling 4 times platinum, winning a Grammy, etc. So when it came to his sophomore album, Kanye wanted to level up his already established production even more. And the end result is this album, Late Registration, from 2005, and it pulls in from an unusual combination of elements. For instance, here's the first song. We've got a mellow drum beat. This is sampled, as is the piano line that comes in here. This is taken from the 1980 Natalie Cole song, Someone That I Used to Love, and it's also heard in the opening skit. But let's jump to the chorus. And I heard him say, nothing's ever promised tomorrow today. That's Adam Levine of Maroon 5 providing the hook. The lead singer of a pop rock band isn't necessarily who you'd expect to hear on a new album from this hot new rapper, but here he is. Levine wrote this hook and ended up making a full song out of it in 2007 called Nothing Lasts Forever, which makes this, what is that, a reverse interpolation? Now let's cut to this instrumental. Some synth bass in there. What else we got? Is that vibraphone? What is that? We got flutes in there? This mellow beat mixed with a pop singer, sampled piano mixed with live orchestra instruments, this is definitely an unexpected way to start the album. This orchestral sound comes from Jon Brion, who co-produced this album. Jon Brion is not a hip-hop producer. He's a producer who's worked with artists like Fiona Apple and Amy Mann, and composed film music for movies like I Heart Huckabees and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. In fact, it was this movie, Eternal Sunshine, that made Kanye want to work with him. Check out the theme from this movie. Can you hear some similarity between this and Heard Him Say? Well, this is just the beginning. Jon Brion is responsible for the orchestral sound of this album, this cinematic expansion of this hottest new rapper's sophomore album, and also, Jon Brion in this album sort of changed my own life in 2 major ways. But we'll come back to that in a minute. First, let's talk about the second song, the only track on this album that Kanye didn't produce, Touch the Sky. Now, I do a ton of research for every video, making sure I get the specifics right, finding original sources, and any bit of information I can find to tell interesting stories around the music. So you can imagine my disappointment when I came across this clip of Just Blaze talking about his production on this song.
Touch the Sky was an easy production process. I mean, I probably came up with the track about 30 minutes before he got to the studio. There's not a big story behind that record. It was really simple.
Alright, so there's no big story here, but I think it's interesting that Kanye, who had tried very hard to get Rockefeller to sign him as his own artist, releases College Dropout, huge success, and then follows it up with this album that starts with a mellow pop vocal orchestra song, followed by a song produced by Rockefeller royalty, Just Blaze. So, for the first time in his own discography, we're hearing Kanye rap over something he didn't produce. It's like he's reminding us that, yes, he can rap in case you forgot. Here are some of my favorite lines.
Now let's go. Take them back to the plan. Me and my mama hopped in that U-Haul van. Any pessimists, I ain't talk to them. Plus, I ain't had no phone in my apartment.
U-Haul van, talk to them, apartment. Plus the humor of him not talking to pessimists because he doesn't have a phone. Come on. Here's another favorite.
Jay's favorite line, dog, in due time. Now they look at me like, damn, dog, you what I am. A hip-hop legend, I think I died in an accident, cause this must be heaven.
The accident, of course, is his near-fatal car accident that Through the Wire came out of. That's a whole other video, but before that, in the lyrics, he's saying that Jay-Z is telling him to be patient, his time as a rapper will come. Well, now here's Kanye, the hottest new rapper, who's currently rapping over a beat made by one of Jay-Z's favorite producers. And then what happens in the third verse? Kanye brings in Lupe Fiasco in his career debut. Kanye's introducing another hot new rapper. This beat, by the way, this is a sample of Move On Up by Curtis Mayfield. Here's the original. It's a lot faster, right? Well, check this out. Let's slow down the tempo of Move On Up and watch what happens. Slow it way down.
I gotta testify.
Similar tempo, but this is much higher. What I just did is the old school way of sampling, slowing down the tempo on the turntable, which also lowers the pitch, but Just Blaze isn't doing that, because while the pitch is slightly lower on this record, it's not nearly as low as it should be. He's changing the tempo and the pitch at different rates. Let me show you how I would do that in Ableton. Alright, I got my track on the timeline here. I'll set the tempo to 99 because that's what Touch the Sky is at. And now I'm going to take this section here. I'm basically grabbing the snare hit early because he starts singing.
Hush now.
So instead of grabbing that, I'm going to grab the snare here. Great. Now I got rid of the other sections. That's way too fast. So I'm going to turn warp on here. Let's try that. That's pretty close. You know what? That's close enough for now. And then I'm gonna pitch this down just slightly, not even a half step. Now all I need is some drums. Now, caveat, I'm gonna give you a very rough sketch of this. I'm not gonna pretend like I can do what Just Blaze did with the drums on this song. This Curtis Mayfield sample is from 1971. It has strings, horns, instruments you might find in an orchestra too. So even though this is a sample, it's a mini preview of what else is coming in this album's production. If you're looking for great horn samples or string samples or cinematic samples for your own productions, I suggest using Tracklib. It's a great service and they're sponsoring this video, so let me cook something else up for you real fast. Tracklib is an online record store specifically for sampling. It's got a huge catalog, like 80,000 songs and growing. There's a 100% guarantee of fast, easy clearance that's actually affordable. So let me browse through here. Now let's see, let's find something cinematic. Vintage movie soundtracks. Here we go, let's check it out. Yes. Now what's cool about this is that in the browser, you can loop, pitch, and add different beats to preview what it'll feel like before you download it. So here we go, let's do a 4-bar loop. Great. Let's slow that down a little bit. Let's add a beat on top of that. Yes. All right, I'm gonna use one of my credits and download this. Let's see, we slowed it down, we pitched it up, we added a high pass filter. Let's add some drums. All right, I'm gonna keep working on this, but when I'm ready to release it, Tracklib makes it super easy because everything in the library is guaranteed for fast, affordable clearance. To get started yourself, click the link in the description. You'll get 15 tracks to download for free, plus a 30-day trial, which is double the typical trial. So to recap so far, Kanye's second album started with a mellow song that was a combination of samples, a pop singer, and orchestral instruments, followed by a song produced by Just Blaze with a great Curtis Mayfield sample, which brings us to Gold Digger. This is an interpolation, which is basically a fancy word for remaking the sample instead of using the original. Jamie Foxx had just played Ray Charles in the movie Ray in 2004, so Kanye enlisted him to interpolate Ray Charles's I Got a Woman for this song. And he got very close. Check this out. Here's Ray's isolated vocal from this song.
She give me money when I'm in need.
And here's Jamie Foxx.
She take my money when I'm in need.
Getting an Oscar-winning singer and actor to re-sing a sample by the guy he just won an award for portraying, that's almost like getting a Ray Charles AI to redo the sample for you. I mean, it's not, but you know what I mean. This song was, of course, a massive hit, but this album is full of less commercial hits that are so good, like the next song, Drive Slow. This song features Paul Wall and GLC and was originally supposed to feature MIA. Production-wise, this is just Kanye. John Bryan's not on this one, but don't worry, he'll be back. The sample here is from Wildflower by Hank Crawford from 1973, but I may have found another interesting thing. For the sound of Late Registration, Kanye was reportedly inspired by not just John Bryan, but the 1994 Portishead album, Dummy. That album fuses a lot of different elements together, like hip-hop drums, vocals, and cinematic sounding elements. For example, here's a song from that Portishead album. Hold on to these drums in your mind and add to it another Portishead song. And here's Kanye's Drive Slow. Or you know how Kanye rapped on Touch the Sky but he didn't produce it? Well, on My Way Home, he does the opposite. He took this Gil Scott-Heron record, the song Home Is Where the Hatred Is, but slowed it way down. Here we go.
A junkie walking through
Right about
the
there.
twilight.
Let's see.
I'm on my way home.
They say home is where the hate is. My
There
dome
we
is
go.
where fate is. I stroll where souls get lost like Vegas. Seen through the eyes of rebel glasses.
Common raps by himself on this song, with Kanye doing the production by himself. This song almost serves like a crossover preview from Common's album B, which came out the same year and Kanye did most of the production for it. I'll do one of these at the end of the video, but let's talk about the next song, Crack Music. John Bryan is back on this one. There's background vocals, horns, strings, synths, all mixed with sampled drums from this song, It's Your Thing by Cold Grits from 1969. If these drums sound familiar, Kanye sampled this later for the song Power off of My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. We get more John Bryan through the rest of the album, bringing more orchestral stuff that perfectly fuses with other hip-hop elements. For example, take Roses. The beginning of the verses of the song are orchestral-sounding instruments with Kanye rapping on top, but there's no drums. Take a listen.
I know it's past visiting hours, but can I please give it these
Just
flowers?
that, like, what is that,
The doctors
vibraphone?
don't wanna take
Might be
procedures.
celeste?
He claim my heart can't take the anesthesia. It'll send a body into
If you
a
know,
seizure.
drop in
The
the
little
comments.
thing by the hospital bed, it'll stop beeping.
But then on the chorus, there's no rapping. We keep the orchestral stuff, we get a choir sample, but add hip-hop sounding drums. How about orchestral stuff with the beat and the choir? For me, you have to understand, I grew up playing upright bass in the orchestra, so this fusion of hip-hop and orchestral elements scratches two very specific itches for me. In addition to his production work and film music, John Bryan has played at Largo in LA every month for a long time. It's a solo show, he plays multiple instruments, and you never know what you're gonna get. If you are ever able to, you have to go. It's pure magic. I went to one of these shows once, and it was not only incredible and inspiring, it literally changed my life in a pretty major way. Kind of the biggest way you could think of. But we'll save all of that for the end. Let's talk about Diamonds from Sierra Leone. This song was apparently originally just called Diamonds and was about the tense drama at Rockefeller Records, which makes Kanye's lyric from Touch the Sky sting even more. But Kanye changed it to be about the blood diamonds in Sierra Leone. This sample is from Shirley Bassey's Diamonds Are Forever from the soundtrack to the James Bond movie of the same name. This is as cinematic as it gets. There are two versions on this album, one that's a remix that features Jay-Z, which is interesting not only for the Rockefeller connection, but because on the next song, We Major, this features Nas, who at the time was feuding with Jay-Z. Hey Mama is a tribute to his mother, featuring more orchestral instrumentation, and then the next track, yeah, you know what this is. This is another incredible blend of so many different elements. I don't know what you were gonna say. Haha, censoring for YouTube. We've got a pitched sample from Heavenly Dream by the KGs from 1979, plus a full orchestra plus synthesizer. So it's like a combination of where he's been, the pitched sample, where he is right now, the orchestra and John Bryan, and where he's going since his next album, Graduation, features a lot more synths. The orchestra on this song, by the way, they're also on Bring Me Down, and the next song, Gone, which is another favorite of mine, blending gorgeous orchestration with hip-hop production. They're taking this sample from Otis Redding. The song is It's Too Late from 1965. This is chopped throughout the song, but then we've got Kanye's drums. Uh-oh. Mixed with John Bryan's orchestration.
You sweater, and I ain't talking about a cool J.
But then we also get incredible moments like this. Come on, those strings, but those hip-hop drums. This is like you could only have Kanye and John Bryan making this. It's so cool. Now, I said at the beginning that this album and John Bryan changed my life. I have three direct connections to this album. First, this studio orchestra, which is featured on multiple songs, had multiple upright bass players, one of which was Francis Singer, one of my bass teachers from college. Second, also when I was in college, I was in a recording class and we were tasked with recording a short EP, and I was in charge of one of those songs. I chose to record a song by a singer-songwriter friend of mine, but the professor suggested I try my hand at expanding the original instrumentation, which was just piano and voice, to be a full orchestra. He suggested I check out John Bryan at Largo for inspiration. I went, and it was absolutely incredible. I took inspiration from that night, arranged and orchestrated this song, recorded it with an orchestra, and my singer-songwriter friend absolutely loved what I did to her song. And wouldn't you know it, fast forward a few years and we got married. Third, for this album, Kanye leaned heavily on the orchestral sound. He even made a live album called Late Orchestration. He did something similar with Common's album B, since he produced most of that. I recently talked with Derek Hodge, who played the opening bass line to that album and arranged the live strings that you hear on that opening song. Well, fast forward a few years and Derek Hodge is doing more orchestral hip-hop arranging for Mos Def, more for Common, and then for Nas's Illmatic. He played the original performance at the Kennedy Center, and I have played that show with Nas many times since, something we got to talk about in our podcast conversation. But the point is, John Bryan indirectly had an impact on my life, and now I'm married. Kanye indirectly affected my life by way of pushing this orchestral hip-hop sound through this album, with Common's B, with Derek Hodge, and with the Illmatic show that I would end up playing. Not to mention, this album is just so good. I've got a listening guide link in the description with every song mentioned in this video, so go take a listen. That Common album, by the way, B, that's produced mostly by Kanye, but also Jay Dilla. It's full of incredible 70s soul samples, live strings, iconic upright bass, and has been named by Common himself as one of his top 2 albums. But for that story, you gotta click here.